That great baseball mind said human behavior flows from three main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. His name was Plato. Those three sources are what make tonight's starting pitchers so special. Two pitchers that we've watched go from future stars to the brightest of them all. And with desire, emotion, and knowledge, Jake Peavy and Brad Penny's behavior has gone from young throwers to elite pitchers. Tonight, the eyes of the baseball world are upon Los Angeles as we witness the best the game has to offer, pitching off the same mound. Peavy, Penny, next. It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, FSN Prime Ticket presents the Dodgers as they take on the San Diego Padres. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Saturday night to you, wherever you may be. It is a Saturday night best with Jake Peavy going up against Brad Penny. Penny 10-1, but he has struggled 3-6 lifetime against the Padres. Peavy is 9-2. He is 7-1 against the Dodgers. By the way, so the last 2 years, the Dodgers have struggled against the Padres, who have beaten them 19 out of 27 times. So the Dodgers tonight hoping to win a very important second game of the series. The Dodgers will take the field in third place, one game back. Arizona is in the sandwich. They're a half a game back. And the Padres, at least for the moment, are atop the heap. Tomorrow, it will be Chad Billingsley and Justin Germano. We'll get to the ball game and a lot more after this. Dodger Baseball on FSN Prime Ticket is brought to you by Gatorade. It's in the MLB. Is it in you? By Southwest Airlines. With more flights to more places than ever before, Southwest is taking low fares farther. And by Nissan and your Nissan dealer. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Saturday night to you, wherever you may be. The Dodgers and the San Diego Padres, and what certainly is a long-awaited duel between two of the finest young pitchers in the game. That would be Brad Penny with a record of 10-1, Jake Peavy with a record of 9-2. And it would appear that every one will be precious tonight because Penny's home earned run average is 1.3. And Jake Peavy's road earned run average is 0.8. So you have push and shove going head-to-head here at Dodger Stadium. Penny 10-1, but in the red against the Padres. He is 3-6 against San Diego. He was 0-2 against the Padres last year. Peavy's the other way around. Not only 9-2, Jake is 7-1 lifetime against the Dodgers and 1-0 this year. So the stage is set for what we think will be a magnificent ball game. Let's take a look at the Padre lineup to start off on manager Bud Black's 50th birthday. Brian Giles in right and Marcus Giles at second, Adrian Gonzalez at first, and Mike Cameron in center field. Josh Bard, the catcher, Khalil Green at short, Kevin Kuzminoff bats seventh at third, Jose Cruz in left field, and Jake Peavy on the mound. And on the mound for the Dodgers, the big boy out of Oklahoma, Brad Penny. In fact, you have two country boys here tonight. Penny from Oklahoma, and down in the Padre dugout, Jake Peavy from Semmes, Alabama. And we have southern weather tonight. It is a typical summer's evening after a hot afternoon. And Penny and Peavy just about ready in the 11th meeting of the year between the two clubs. And the Padres have won 6 of the previous 10. The Padres, for the last 2 years, have given the Dodgers a bad time. By winning last night, they have won 19 of the last 28 games between the two. So where the Dodgers do very well against San Francisco, Arizona, and Colorado, They're 51-25. They stumble badly against the Padres. Brian Giles, who missed 34 games with a bad knee, is back in the ball game. Played last night, so this is his second game after a 3-game rehab. And the first pitch of the left-hand hitting Giles, a strike, and the count 0-1. Brian typically last night picked up a couple of walks. He also had an infield single, and for good measure he had a stolen base. So Brian Giles waiting. Penny into the windup, and the strike one pitch on the way, just off the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike. The temperature here at 7-11 is 75 degrees. So Penny, who works from the first base side of the rubber, into his windup, and the big right-hander's 1-1 pitch is swung on, hit in the air to left center. Pierre on his horse and one-hands it. Nice play for Juan Pierre to glove that line drive in the gap. Here are the Dodgers with the leather. James Loney and Jeff Kent, Rafael Furcal and Nomar at third. And amazingly, no more ground balls for Nomar. He hadn't fielded a ground ball in 3 starts. You have Luis Gonzalez, Juan Pierre, Andre Ethier in the outfield, and the battery of Penny and Martin. The other Giles boy, Marcus Giles, checks in and takes off the plate. Ball 1, 1-0. So the Dodgers doing pretty well against the Western Division, with the exception of when they go head-to-head against San Diego. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Penny's fastball is a little high, ball 2. As far as overall, the Dodgers in the West, they are 17-13. San Diego is 18-12, so they deserve to be in first place. Arizona back by a half, and the Dodgers by 1. Penny's fastball hit in the air to right center this time. Pierre moves over to make the catch. So the brothers Giles move Pierre. Brian drives him to left center, and Marcus drives him to right center. 2 down, and the batter will be Adrian Gonzalez. Well, happy birthday to Bud Black, 50 years old today. Born up north in San Mateo. Had a fine career as a pitcher, then became the pitching coach for Mike Scioscia, and now his first year at the helm of the Padres as a big league manager. Adrian Gonzalez hitting .278, 14 home runs, 51 runs batted in. He's gone 9 games without an RBI. Penny's pitch swung on and missed, and the count 0-1. And for a hitter like Adrian Gonzalez to go 9, that's just about a famine. But he is the delivery man, and a good one at that. Into the windup goes Brad with 2 down. The strike one pitch just off the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike to Adrian Gonzalez. He's right up there in the top 5 or thereabouts in doubles, extra base hits, and hitting with runners in scoring position, as well as RBIs. 1-1 pitch. Adrian swings, doesn't get it, and 1-2 the count. When you break the Dodgers down against the West, they're actually more effective against Western Division teams on the road. They're 11-6, and Grady's club won 2 out of 3 in San Diego, but at home they're 6-7. The pitch to Gonzalez on the outside corner, strike 3 called. So Brad Penny, a couple of fly balls and a strikeout. Padres go in order, and at the end of half an inning, it's time for Jake Peavy. No score. Brad Penny set the Padres down 1-2-3. Now the bottom of the first inning, and here are the names on Grady Little's batting card. No dramatic changes. Furcal, Pierre, and Martin. Kent, Gonzalez, and Garcia Parra. Loney, and then Ethier in right field tonight instead of Matt Kemp. Brad Penny on the mound. On the mound for San Diego, Jacob Peavy out of Semmes, Alabama. 6'1", 180. All of a sudden, 26 years old. A 15th round pick by the Padres back in 1999 out of high school. A remarkable young player, plagued by injuries when he was a kid in high school, but able to overcome them all. And Rafael Furcal takes a strike, 0-1. Furcal hitting .274. Jacob Peavy, as a scrawny teenager, they said he had rail-thin arms and a pair of legs brittle as twigs, and all kinds of injuries. The strike one pitch is swung on, Popped in the air, going back out on the grass is Khalil Green, and the shortstop makes the catch. So just like that, 1 out in the first inning, and the batter will be Juan Pierre. Peavy, growing up to high school days, had been sidelined with, among other things, a broken ankle he sustained falling into a ditch while he was jogging. A severely cut left hand suffered while taking out the trash. A sliced heel incurred when he stepped on an open suitcase, and a cracked rib, the result of jumping up and down during a post-game celebration. The pitch to Juan Pierre, a strike, and the count 0-1. Pierre hitting .277, 18 runs batted in. Certainly a thorn in the Padres side last night. Takes off the plate, 1-1. Not only did Pierre have 3 hits, he hit the ball well each time, and he had 3 stolen bases, and he induced Chris Young to balk. The 1-1 pitch on the way. Fastball low, ball 2, 2-1. No score, bottom of the first inning, 1 out in what should be a wonderfully well-pitched ball game. Peavy into the windup, and the right-hander slings it in there, and it's fouled away, and the count 2-2. So Juan Pierre trying to get aboard and see if he can do a little damage. His specialty, of course, stolen bases. He has 29. Facing a pitcher who commands his fastball down and away as good as anybody in the game. 2-2 pitch on the way is swung on and lifted to shallow left center. Cameron says he will get it, and he does. And just like that, 2 out in the first inning. When you talk to Kevin Towers, the GM of San Diego, he said he was sitting in the stands at a Class A ball game in Fort Wayne, and a skinny teenager sat down next to him and introduced himself. He was a kid out of Mobile whom Towers had taken in the 15th round, but he didn't know him. And they sat watching the game, and all of a sudden this young kid said to the veteran GM Towers, "I don't get it." Well, here's the first pitch to Russell Martin, a strike. And then the kid said, "Why don't these hitters ever make adjustments? They're supposed to be professionals. I make adjustments every time I'm out there pitching." And Towers said, "Whoa, who is this kid?" Strike 1 pitch to Martin, a chopper to third. Hesitating Kuzminov backs off, feels it, and throws him out. So it goes the way it figured in the first inning. Each side 1, 2, 3 against the top-notch pitching, and at the end of an inning, no score. Padres and Dodgers, no score. Second inning, it'll be Mike Cameron, followed by Josh Bard, and then Khalil Green. Mike Cameron, in last night's ball game, robbed of an extra base hit and an RBI on a diving catch by Matt Kemp in right field. A real belly whopper as he went to the foul line. Then Cameron double walked and grounded out twice. So Mike hitting .264, 10 home runs, 38 runs batted in. Penny into the windup, right-hander ready, comes to Cameron, who shows bunt, takes outside, ball 1, 1-0. So it's Cameron, Bard, and Green, and if anybody gets on, Kevin Kuzminov. Into the windup goes Penny, and his 1-0 pitch on the way. Cameron fouls it back. 1 ball and 1 strike. We mentioned that Brad Penny has struggled in his young career against the Padres, never more so than last year. I mean, they did a number on Penny. He was 0-2. He allowed 19 earned runs in 20 innings. Right-hander ready, and the 1-1 pitch on the way. Swung on, lined into left down the line. Gonzalez can't cut it off. It'll go to the base of the box seats, and into second base steaming goes Mike Cameron with a long double. So Cameron collects the first hit of the ball game, and it turns out to be his 19th double. And the batter will be the switch hitting catcher Josh Bard. So Michael Barrett caught last night, and Barrett had 1 hit and then came up with another late in the game, wound up going 2 for 5. So Bard's turn to get a left-handed bat in there. Josh hitting .256, 3 home runs, 22 runs batted in. Penny works it low, ball 1, 1-0. Remember, going in, and certainly on paper, every run figures to be so important. Penny's home earned run average 1.3. Peavy's road earned run average 0.8. And the Padres have a runner at second base and nobody out. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Bard takes low. 2 balls and no strikes the count. So 2 balls and no strikes. In going back into the books to look at Brad Penny's work, Josh Bard 2 for 4 against him. Cameron hitting about 300 against him as he takes his lead at second. And the pitch to Bard in for a strike. And the count 2-1. So Big Brad perspiring in the heat, 75 degrees, plus the exertion, of course. And Josh Bard waiting quietly at the plate. Penny ready, comes back to his hitter, and that's whacked to right field down the line. Ethier coming over, and that one is gone. So Josh Bard, it's a wait, it bounced in. So it is a line drive double to right. In watching Gary Cederstrom, when he held his arm in the air, we thought that was indicative of a home run, but it bounced in. So Bard doubles in Cameron. Got a pitch low and on the inside part of the plate and hit it a one-hopper that cleared the wall. So back-to-back doubles, and it's the Padres who have a run and take a 1-0 lead. Now at the plate is Khalil Green. He takes a strike, and the count 0-1. So Green, the shortstop, batting .242, 13 home runs, 45 runs batted in. Penny delivers high and inside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Green, 6 home runs in 10 games, but they shut him down last night. He did have 1 hit. He went 1 for 4, and he was robbed of an extra base hit on a diving catch by Nomar Garciaparra, who was yet to see a ground ball. 1-1 to Green, 1-0 San Diego, and we're in the top of the second inning. Green 0 for 6 against Penny, who has struck him out 5 of those 6 times. Brad at the belt, looks back at Bard. Back he comes just off the plate. 2 balls and 1 strike to count. So double trouble. Cameron doubles to left. Bard bounces one for a double into right. And it is 1-0 San Diego. Penny comes back with a fastball fouled away. Down the right field line, back in the stands, 2-2. Very bright sky, sunset time here in Los Angeles. The bleachers in right awash in sunset gold, as well as the upper deck in right field. So the lights have not taken effect at all. Bard taking his lead at second, and the 2-2 pitch is swung on, hit in the air to shallow right center. Pierre, a diving backhand catch, and gets the ball back into the infield. Big play by Juan Pierre to take a base hit away from Khalil Green. So we've only had 6 batters in the game, and Pierre has 3 putouts. The other 2 was somewhat routine, but not that one. That was a diving backhand catch in right center field. So a big play by Juan, and the batter now is Kevin Kuzmanov. So Pierre saving Penny a little more trouble. Kuzmanov has about a 100-point difference against left-handers and right-handers. He takes a strike. Against right-handers, he's hitting 194. Against left-handers, he's hitting 290. And remember, last night he hit a home run with 2 aboard to right field against Hung-Chi Kuo, which reminds us to tell you about Kuo. Penny ready in the strike 1 pitch, and Kuzmanov fouls it back. Hung-Chi Kuo has been sent back to Las Vegas. DJ Holton, who had pitched for the Dodgers in the past, will be coming up. DJ from Fullerton and lives in Yorba Linda, so he'll be happy to come back up to the big club. Talking about origins, when you ask Kuzmanov what nationality he might be, you might think of Russian. He takes inside any name, I guess, that ends OFF. You've got to figure Kuzmanov would be Russian, but he says, no, I am Macedonian. Well, Macedonia, the region that is, covers a great deal of the Balkan Peninsula and also a region of Greece. 1 ball and 2 strikes the count. Penny ready, and Brad deals low and inside, ball 2. So here in the second inning, Mike Cameron double to left, Josh Bard double to right, a 1-hopper in the lower deck, and that scored Cameron. Then Green robbed of a hit on a diving catch by Pierre. So Bard, who is a tough hitter and the top Padre with runners in scoring position, he doubled in the run. Meanwhile, Kuzman off a ground ball to Kent for the second out, and Bard advances to third. 1-0 Padres, 2 out. Jose Cruz, a switch hitter, coming up. And of course, as we always do, with a runner at third, why we check wild pitches, and Penny, who throws among other things a splitter, has 4. So there'll be extra pressure on Russell Martin to keep everything around the plate as Bard comes down the line. Jose Cruz hitting .265, 5 home runs, 19 runs batted in. Hitting left-handed, takes low. That might have been the splitter, ball 1. Cruz last night had a triple and a walk. Went 1 for 3, scored 1 and knocked 1 in. Now the 1-0 pitch on the way. Penny set, comes to the plate with a breaking ball for a strike, and a big curveball makes it 1-1. By the way, when Bard doubled in Cameron, as Josh stands at the bag at third now, he is the top Padre hitter with runners in scoring position, hitting .404. The 1-1 pitch is taken a little low, ball 2, 2-1 the count. 2 out, second inning. Padres 1, Dodgers nothing. Brad Penny and Jake Peavy. Waiting on deck is Jake Peavy. The 2-1 pitch on the way, fastball off the plate. So it might be that Penny would rather pitch around Cruz, maybe, but I'm sure he remembers, and you might, Jake Peavy had a home run last year. He had the home run against, altogether, Brad Penny. Now the 3-1 pitch, that's a strike. 3-2 the count to Jose Cruz. So Jose, who played for a little while with the Dodgers, though he is very familiar with playing left field, that's for sure. Hitting right-handed last night against Quo, had a triple to right center. Now hitting left-handed against Penny. 3-2 pitch coming up. Brad ready and deals. Ground ball to the right side. Nice big hop for Jeff Kent, and that'll be that. However, doubles by Mike Cameron and the weapon of the Padres, Josh Bard. His double scored Cameron. It's 1-0 San Diego. 1-0 Padres, bottom of the second inning. Jeff Kent coming up. You know, earlier today, the Dodgers hosted the first and only clinic of the year for Dodgers Win, Women's Initiative and Network. The event, presented by Toyota, featured instruction from a lot of Dodgers to a lot of ladies. And one of them giving instruction was Jeff Kent, who will lead off right now in the second inning. So Jake Peavy ready to work on Jeff, who is hitting .269, 10 home runs, 39 runs batted in. Peavy's fastball fouled away. Others who gave instruction besides Jeff Kent were Randy Wolf, Mike Lieberthal, Rick Honeycutt, former Dodgers, Wes Parker, Sweet Lou Johnson, Kenny Landreau, Tommy Lasorda, and the Dodger head trainer Stan Conti. So it was a big day earlier today. Strike one pitch low and away to Kent. 1 ball and 1 strike. Kent hitting .261. He has 1 home run. Those are his numbers against Peavy. .269 for the year. And the 1-1 pitch, Jeff takes a strike, and the count 1-2. Jake Peavy talks a great deal on the mound. He is forever talking to himself, and he's the first to let you know about it. You may remember the jawing session he got into here with Mariano Duncan as Kent takes outside. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Peavy keeps a running conversation with himself. Gosh darn it, Peave, make the pitch, Peave. Attaway, Peave. He's just constantly talking on the mound. Right now, just staring in to get a sign over the fingertips of his glove. Young right-hander's 2-2 pitch on the way. Kent swings and misses. It gets away from Bard. who makes the tag at the plate, and we have one out. So Kent strikes out, and the batter now will be Luis Gonzalez. Gonzalez had one of the strangest nights, I think, in his career. It started off in his first at-bat in the first inning against Chris Young. It was a 12-pitch at-bat, and he finally struck out. And during the course of the long night, Gonzalez saw 35 pitches. He fouled off 15 pitches and wound up going 0 for 5. And Gonzo takes a strike. In fact, just to add misery to his long evening, the Dodgers had Jeff Kent aboard representing the tying run, and Gonzo fouled out to end the game. 0-1 the count to Luis, hitting .295. Peavy's fastball low and away. 1 ball and 1 strike. Jake Peavy, whose father owns a cabinet making shop and his mom Debbie is a mail carrier, they still live in Semmes, Alabama. The 1-1 pitch is taken for a strike. 1-2. One of Peavy's closest pals is another fine pitcher with Houston, Roy Oswalt. They do a little hunting for white-tailed deer in the offseason. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Peavy back with a pitch low. 2-2. One of Peavy's big problems throughout his lifetime, he has very poor eyesight. He just can't do anything without his contacts. But thank goodness, here he is making a fine living with the help of the contacts. 2-2 pitch is lined to left. Over goes Cruz, reaches up and picks it off. So Gonzo, a line drive to left, 2 out in the second inning, and Nomar coming up.
For the Dodgers, third baseman, number 5, Nomar Garciaparra.
For Garciaparra, hitting .278 against Jake Peavy. And for Nomar, after a dismal road trip, he perked up as soon as he got home. He had 3 hits last night. So Nomar hitting .273 with a home run, 39 runs batted in. Jake Peavy, right-hander into the windup, comes with the fastball away. Ball 1, 1-0. 2 down, bottom of the second inning. Padres 1, Dodgers nothing. Peavy into his windup and the 1-0 pitch on the way. Nomar takes a strike. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. For Jake Peavy, who absolutely idolized his grandfather, whose name was Blanche Peavy. The 1-1 pitch, and that's lifted to straightaway center. Cameron coming up. He'll have to play it on a bounce. So Nomar, unable to really extend his arms, nevertheless put the bat on the ball for a base hit. And the hitter will be James Loney. So Nomar, as soon as he gets off the plane, he's home. And he has 4 hits in his first 5 at-bats. And James Loney coming up. There's only been one true word for Loney so far with the bat. Astounding. I mean, just listen to this. He's hitting .478. Against left-hand pitching, he's hitting .583. At night, he's hitting .586. On the road, he's hitting .556. With runners in scoring position, he's hitting .583. Loney go directly to the Hall of Fame. And promptly hits the first pitch to center. Cameron started back. Now comes up to make the catch, and that's that. So the Dodgers get a base hit from Garciaparra and leave him. And at the end of 2, 1-0 San Diego. Third inning here at Dodger Stadium. The Padres lead the Dodgers 1-0. It occurred quickly in the second inning. Mike Cameron doubled to left, and Josh Bard doubled to right to get him in. So now Brad Penny working on Jake Peavy, who homered against him last year. Talking about home runs, Peavy himself has allowed only 1 this year, and promptly lifts a fly ball to deep right center. Back goes Pierre to the track to make the catch for the out. So Jake Peavy, pretty handy with the bat, hitting .219 coming into the game with 7 hits, 3 doubles and a triple, and 4 runs batted in. So he was up there to hit. and it's a long fly ball, 1 away. It's remarkable when you think of Peavy's eyesight and the fact that without his contacts, he doesn't see at all, really. The pitch to Brian Giles, a strike. In fact, he said he's been dealing with it since high school, and without the contacts, he just sees a blur. And yet here he is pitching and a pretty good hitter. Giles takes a strike. 0-2 the count. Penny trying to go after the hitters. He's had a first pitch strike to 7 of 9. 0-2 the count to Brian Giles. That's a little high. Ball 1. Giles flied to left center, and Marcus Giles to right center. 1-0 San Diego in the third. Penny into his windup, and the 1-2 pitch coming up to Brian Giles, golfed at and hit foul off third down the line, out of play. Giles is a rather remarkable ball player, one of the few around really, who most of the time will walk more than he strikes out. And that's right even at this moment. 18 walks, 18 strikeouts. Here's the 1-2 pitch on the way. Brian takes very high. That brought Russell Martin out of the crouch. 2-2 the count. 1 run for the Padres on back-to-back doubles. Dodgers no runs, 1 hit. Penny into his windup, and the big guy's 2-2 pitch on the way, off speed and just missed. Ball 3. 70 some odd mile an hour curveball. So he goes 3-2 to Brian Giles. Brad, pretty good ratio, better than 2-1 strikeouts and walks, but he walks Giles with 1 out. In Brian Giles' career, he has struck out 700 times and walked over 1,000. So he is a rare player indeed with those kind of numbers. And so Brian draws the walk to nobody's surprise. And now Marcus Giles checking in. So Brian at first, stole 9 bases last year, usually steals in double figures. Marcus fouls a pitch away, and the count 0-1. 1-0 San Diego, top of the third on a glorious evening. 75 degrees at the start of the game. And although shrouded in a little bit of a haze, we can still see the mountains out there back of center field. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Fastball foul back as Penny lets one go at 93, and Marcus Giles hits it back into the screen. If you look on television, you don't really see the mountains, but trust me, they're out there. 0-2 the count. Penny again set at the belt. Brad ready, looks over his left shoulder, back to his hitter, and misses. Ball 1. 1-2 the count. The brothers Giles, of course, their greatest brother act had to be in San Francisco. That one particular game when all 3 Alous played at the same time. Marcus takes inside. That, of course, would be Felipe, Matty, and Jesus, and they were all outfielders. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Marcus Giles. Adrian Gonzalez on deck. Brian about 7 years older than Marcus, and Marcus a chopper wide at third, Garcia Parra to second, and that's all they're going to get. So for Nomar Garcia Parra, that's the first ground ball that he has gotten since moving over to play a new position, and he turns it nicely into a force play. Tricky hop, he had to play it off his left hip, and then he got it to Kent, and then Brian Giles made sure there would be no effort in a throw to first. So 2 down, and a very good hitter, Adrian Gonzalez, will be coming up. Adrian struck out in the first inning. He has now struck out 3 times in the series. The 3 of his 6 at bats have been Ks. He promptly lines one to left. Luis back to snare it. Messes Gonzalez to Gonzalez. No runs, no hits, a man left. And at the end of 2.5 innings, Padres 1, Dodgers nothing. San Diego leading the Dodgers 1-0 as we go to the bottom of the 3rd inning. Always great to see youngsters here, and we have plenty of them in the ballpark. Hope maybe you'll make your plans to be with us tomorrow, and that'll be Germano and Billingsley. Greg Maddux, the veteran sitting in the Padre dugout, has had a great deal of influence, we understand, on Jake Peavy. They are constantly talking pitching in the clubhouse, dugout, back of the airplane. They have dinner on the road. Jake ready now and working on Andre Ethier, and he pops one up on the left field side. Coming over in foul ground is Jose Cruz and makes the catch right near the railing of the seats. So Ethier fouls out to Jose Cruz, and we have one away in the third inning. One of the things that Maddux has done to help Jake Peavy, Jake is pretty hyper. We told you he always talks to himself, very much on nerves, but Maddux has taught him to slow things down, slow the thought process, focus on every pitch, and he's had a great influence on him. Brad Penny takes a strike in the count 0-1. And among other things, remember, Peavy is from Alabama, and his #1 team, he loved the Atlanta Braves and Greg Maddux. And of course, Maddux won 3 straight Cy Young awards with the Braves. So all of a sudden, Jake couldn't believe it. Here I am now with a fellow who's won 4 Young awards, 340 career victories, and I can go out and have dinner with him. Here's the strike 2 pitch on the way, and Penny waves at it, misses it, but it goes to the backstop. Bard picks it up and throws him out. So Penny strikes out, 2 down. Another thing that was pointed out, and it was pointed out in talking about Peavy and Maddux, he was talking about the fact that Maddux is always willing to give advice to anybody, and he's always good to have around because he knows the best restaurants and always picks up the tab. So Greg Maddux, who is a great guy anyway in his soft-spoken, quiet way, but he's had a tremendous influence on Jake Peavy. Two down, and Rafael Furcal coming up. Rafael, among other things, has 3 home runs against Peavy. Jake ready to go to his windup and then backs off. Something got his attention. Maybe he thought there was a beach ball loose, and there was. So now he's ready. Furcal hitting .273. Peavy delivers fastball at the knees for a strike, and the count 0-1. All right, the Padres lead 1-0. No big deal, right? Well, now wait a minute. With these two teams, how important is a 1-0 lead to the Padres and or the Dodgers? Here's the strike 1 pitch off the plate. When the Padres score first, their record is 30-8. When the Dodgers score first, they are 29-7. The 1-1 pitch, check swing. They'll look at third. No swing, says Tim Welke, and a 2-1 count. So that 1-0 lead is nothing to sneeze about on Bud Black's 50th birthday. Dodgers, by the way, scored first last night and lost. 2-1 pitch on the way, popped in the air. Kuzmanov right on the line and makes the catch, and that will be it for the Dodgers. So they've had 1 hit in 3 innings, no other base runners, and at the end of 3, Padres 1, Dodgers nothing.
Aflac!
Right now, let's get to our Aflac trivia question. Brad Penny started the All-Star game last year. Who are the only 2 Padre pitchers to start the All-Star game? Any idea? Well, we'll pass along the answer in a little while. Jake Peavy had himself an easy 3rd inning, retiring the side, 8 pitches. Brad Penny ready to go to work now against Mike Cameron, Josh Bard, and Khalil Green. Cameron and Bard combined for the 1 run back in the 2nd inning, and Cameron takes a strike. Mike was struggling when the Dodgers were last playing against San Diego, but he has certainly been on a tear ever since. Strike 1 pitch is swung on, grounded inside third, down the line despite a diving effort by Garciaparra, and Cameron into second base, holding with a double. So Cameron 2 doubles tonight. He now has 20 doubles, and again the pressure is on Penny. So Cameron hooked it inside the bag, Garcia diving, couldn't get the leather on it. So now with Cameron at second, Bard, Green, and Kuzminov coming up. And remember, somewhat unknown, Josh Bard hitting .404 with runners in scoring position. So the switch hitting catcher takes a look at Penny's first offering. Ball one, 1-0. Josh Bard, a veteran, played for 3 clubs. He's out of Ithaca, New York. Swings, fouls it away, 1-1. Josh was originally signed by the Rockies back in 1999 out of Texas Tech. Grew up in the Denver area, Cherry Creek, which is just outside of Denver. Originally drafted out of high school by Minnesota, but opted to go to Texas Tech. 1-2 the count to Josh Bard. Josh was a teammate of Jason Jennings on Team USA. Jennings, you may remember, the #1 pick by the Rockies out of Baylor. They attended each other's weddings, etc. And Bard made his big league debut in '02. And how do you like a home run in the 9th inning to give Cleveland a 4-2 victory in his major league debut? Hit into left field, coming up in a hurry is Gonzo, but it's going to drop for a hit. And going to third is Cameron. So Bard, a little fly ball single to left field. And with nobody out, Brad Penny in a lot of trouble. Green, Kuzminov, and Kuz coming up. Don't forget, tomorrow at 1:10, the Dodgers and Padres. All kids 14 and under receive a ticket to Universal Studios Hollywood. To double your fun, visit Dodgers.com or call 866-DODGERS. Tomorrow's game, Justin Germano, 5-1 against Chad Billingsley, 4-0. Now the pitch in for a strike to Green, who was robbed of a base hit in the 2nd inning on that diving catch by Juan Pierre. No balls, 1 strike. So Penny in trouble, down 1-0 anyway as Green fouls it away, and the count 0-2. Penny, a totally different pitcher and much more the pitcher than the hard thrower. He had one overwhelming strikeout game this year. That was against the Florida Marlins in Florida when he struck out 14. He had 2 games at 7, but lately he's been striking out 4 and 5. The strike 2 pitch is foul back. He has 1 strikeout so far. He got Adrian Gonzalez in the 1st inning. But he's already given up 3 doubles and a single, and down 1-0 with Cameron at third, Bard at first, nobody out. 0-2 the count to Khalil Green. We're in the 4th. Well, there's a strikeout just when he needed it. So Green strikes out. Strikeout number 2. And the batter now will be the Macedonian, Kevin Kuzminov. By the way, in talking about Macedonia, I'm with you. We had to look it up, Google it, whatever. Wikipedia. A region of the Balkan Peninsula. The only thing I knew from way back in school, I had something to do with Macedonia and Greece. Whoa, good fastball, 0-1. And he let that thing fly at 95. 0-1 the count to big Kevin Kuzminov, who had that 3-run home run last night. Kevin hitting .222, 7 home runs, 33 runs batted in. That's a little low. 1 ball, 1 strike. So Penny working very hard here. A double and a fly ball single. 1 out. Kuzminov waiting. Runner going, pitch missed at the plate. The throw down, they got him. And holding at third is Cameron. You had the feeling that maybe that was going to be a double steal. That Bard, whom you don't expect to steal bases, Josh Bard does not have a stolen base. So you expected perhaps he was going, maybe a possible hit and run. Cameron came down the line, but Martin made the good throw, and Bard is erased. So that's a huge out. Cameron is now at third, but with 2 down. 1-2 the count to Kuzminov, and Penny's fastball got him looking. Whoa, how to fight your way off the ropes. A double and a single, and the Padres come up empty. And at the end of 3.5 innings, thanks to a fine throw and a strong pitch, Penny showing a lot of emotion. Padres 1, Dodgers nothing. Brad Penny is usually poker face, but when you saw that emotional display when he struck out Kuzminov, you get the idea what's going on here tonight. 1-0 San Diego, bottom of the 4th, and Juan Pierre against Jake Peavy, a strike, 0-1. Peavy, getting a strike on Pierre, has been strike 1 to every hitter but Garciaparra. And Garciaparra is the only Dodger with a hit. Little fly ball single to center. 0-1 the count to Juan Pierre. Ground ball. Marcus Giles, 1 away. Remember the trivia question?
Affleck!
Well, the Affleck question of the night. Brad Penny has started the All-Star game last year. Who are the only 2 Padre pitchers to start the All-Star game?
Affleck!
You have any idea? They've had some dandies, and there they are. Randy Jones and Lamar Hoyt, and both earned victories in the All-Star game. There's now building a tremendous rivalry between the Dodgers and the Padres as Peavy works on Martin. Foul back. And although the Giant-Dodger rivalry is much older, I think the Dodger-Giant rivalry, first of all, is close to 500 miles apart. That makes a difference. And if Barry Bonds wasn't playing for the Giants, there wouldn't be nearly the emotion that has now grown between 2 cities so close to each other, Los Angeles and San Diego. And in thinking about the rivalry, you know, the Dodgers long in baseball, out here since '58. Padres began in 1969, and they were certainly no factor. They won 20-some-odd games at home and 20-some-odd games on the road. However, the Padres started to come of age, I believe, with Randy Jones. And then after Randy Jones, along came Dave Winfield. And then, along with Winfield, came Tony Gwynn. Little roller slowly to short. Green, nice pick, good play. 2 down. And then what happened with the Padres, instead of being, well, an expansion team, a rollover ball club, when you started to play them with Messrs. Winfield and Gwynn, after having already looked at Randy Jones, the rivalry began to flourish. And there was one other factor as San Diego matured. They matured with former Dodgers. Dodger coach Preston Gomez managed San Diego for several years. Don Zimmer, a former Dodger, managed San Diego. Roger Craig, who pitched for the Dodgers, managed San Diego. Dick Williams, who played the outfield for the Brooklyn Dodgers, he managed San Diego. And even Frank Howard, who played here in the outfield, he also managed San Diego. The 1-0 pitch. Ball 2. Buzzy Bavasi, who was the Dodger executive for so many years in Brooklyn and Los Angeles, he wound up running things in San Diego. And perhaps the story that really turned things upside down, Steve Garvey of the Dodgers became a Padre. And all of a sudden, the fires were lit. Strike. Then, of course, there were those, well, you described them, those mustard and brown uniforms that the Padres wore in the early days. And things really started to warm up. Ball 3. If you're old enough to remember in '84, the rivalry really was hot. Padres were going to win and go into the World Series. Remember Tommy Lasorda's remark about Kurt Bavacqua, who played for the Padres? Fly ball to center. Cameron has a play. That'll do it. 1-0 Padres, and Lasorda said Bavacqua couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. We'll be back. Well, a fired up Brad Penny against Jake Peavy, and the Padres leading 1-0. It'll be Jose Cruz, then Jake Peavy, and Brian Giles as you look at the starters and what they've done for 4 innings. First pitch fouled away. 0-1 the count. Jose Cruz grounded to second in the second inning, 0 for 1. 5 home runs, 19 runs batted in. And a fly ball to center. Pierre, who's been very busy, has to go to the track to handle that thing. It really carried. 1 away. Let's just add them up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 putouts for Juan Pierre in 4 1/3 innings. So Juan's busy. He went to left center. He went to right center. He went straight back. And he also made a very big play. A head-first diving catch of the ball hit by Green. Otherwise, the Padres would have another run. And now he has to come and get it. And he is there. So Jake Peavy didn't hang around. And we have 2 down, 5th inning, 1-0 Padres. If you weren't with us earlier, Mike Cameron in the second inning doubled to left. Josh Bard bounced one into the seats in right field for a ground rule double to score Cameron, and that's it. Brian Giles lined out to center and walked. Ball 1. The center fielders have certainly been busy. Pierre has had 6 fly balls. Cameron has had 3. 2 balls and no strikes the count to Brian Giles. 1 run, 4 hits for the Padres. No runs, 1 hit. Garciaparra's single for the Dodgers. Ground ball into right field. So Brian Giles gets hit number 5.
For the Padres, number 22.
Cameron has 2 hits. Bard has 2 hits. And now Brian Giles, the 5th. And here's Marcus. He flied to center, actually right center, and hit into a force play. Marcus and Brian, hailing from San Diego, El Cajon area, both went to Granite Hills High School. And as a hopper to short for call, a quick way to Kent. That's that. No runs, 1 hit, a man left. 4 1/2 innings in the books. 1-0 San Diego. Dodger Baseball on FSN Prime Ticket is brought to you by Aflac. Ask about it at work. And by Lexus and their passionate pursuit of perfection. Bottom of the 5th inning, 1-0 San Diego. Jake Peavy and Brad Penny, so it is unfolding pretty much the way you expected. And it'll be Gonzalez, Garciaparra, and Loney against Peavy. Lewis hitting .294. Ball 1. Flied to left field in the second inning. He has 4 home runs in the past against Peavy. Ground foul. 1-1. Earlier we were talking about Jake Peavy's eyesight, and it is rather remarkable. Without contacts or glasses, he says, the world is just a big blur of colors. But his eyesight, fortunately, is correctable. with the right prescription contacts. And as he said, oh, it's something I've dealt with for a long time. I'm accustomed to it, etc. But in high school, for instance, all of his catchers had to put tape on their fingers so he could read the signs. Fouled away. Well, last year it was in spring training, and they gave Peavy a new prescription, but it really wasn't until August that he got new lenses. And then starting in August, his earned run average was 2.8. Gonzo, a fly ball to center. I think Cameron had trouble finding it, but now he does. It was awfully hard to see the ball in the first 2 innings. So look at that grin on Cameron. He had no idea where the ball was. And then luckily for him, he see those hands. Where are you? Anybody got an idea? Oh, there you are. So actually, it would appear to be easier now. The lights have taken effect. The sky is a much darker blue, but Mike had trouble on it. 4 putouts for him. 0-1 to Nomar. 1 run, 5 hits for the Padres. No runs, 1 hit for the Dodgers. Nomar single with 2 out in the 2nd inning. 1 ball, 1 strike. We were talking about the fact that Peavy and Penny can be strikeout pitchers upon occasion. Penny has struck out 3. Meanwhile, Peavy has a couple, but Peavy has a strikeout record of sorts. Fouled away. This year, Peavy became the first pitcher in the modern era since 1900 to have at least 10 strikeouts 4 straight games without pitching more than 7 innings. It started against Arizona in April. Ball 3. He had 16 strikeouts, including 9 straight. Next game struck out 10. Next game struck out 10. Next game struck out 10. 4 straight games. 3-2 the count to Nomar. Peavy was the National League Pitcher of the Month for May. And among other things, you certainly might be interested in a tough game like this. He has the longest current homerless streak in the major leagues. He has not allowed a home run in his last 84 1/3 innings, including tonight. He allowed 1 home run this year, and that was to Arizona's Chris Young way back in April the 19th. Foul ball, no play for Bard. Padres 1, Dodgers nothing. If you weren't with us at the time, back in the 2nd inning, Mike Cameron double to left. Josh Bard double to right, and that's it. Bard hitting .404 with runners in scoring position, then singled with Cameron at 2nd, but they held Cameron at 3rd in the 4th inning. So Nomar making Peavy work a little bit. A 3-2 count. Interesting too, this is the 10th pitch coming to Garciaparra. No Dodger has seen more than 5 tonight. And that's going to be hit into right center field. Cameron going over. It is gone. And Nomar Garciaparra breaks the home run streak. 84 1/3 innings down the tubes, and Nomar ties it up 1-1. A 3-2 fastball on the 10th pitch. And Nomar hits it into the right center field bleachers. Cameron went back as if he might have a play, but it carried the wall. So the Dodgers have tied it up 1-1. And for Nomar, first home run in 231 at-bats. And it's made those signs of him to give him the high five. So here is James Loney. Boy, imagine 84 and a third and the home run. And you knew it would happen after I said that, right? I mean, that's the way it goes. Shot right back to Peavy. Drops it, picks it up. That'll do it for Loney. 2 down. And Andre Ethier will be coming up. So Nomar Garciaparra, who struggled desperately on the road, probably the longest road trip in his life. And then he comes home. He has 3 hits last night. He has 2 hits tonight, including a home run. Yep, no place like home. Andre Ethier, a strike. Ethier fouled out to Jose Cruz in left field in the 3rd inning. 0 for 1. Off speed for a strike. 0 and 2. 70-mile-an-hour breaking ball. So interesting, Garciaparra was the first Dodger to see more than 5 pitches tonight in a plate appearance. And on the 10th pitch, he hit a home run. 1 and 2. 2 and 2. 1 run, 5 hits for the Padres. 1 run, 2 hits for the Dodgers. Fastball pulled down to Marcus Giles. So for the Dodgers and for Nomar Garciaparra, 1 swing of the bat, and a big swing it was. And after 231 empty at bats, he hits it out to tie it up. Brad Penny and Jake Peavy. Boy, what a ball game. Talking about pitching. On this day in 1962 here at Dodger Stadium, Sandy Koufax pitched his first no-hitter. He beat the New York Mets 5-0, and as you probably know, he wound up pitching 4, including a perfect game. Let's go back to this one. One tie. So this one is one of those rare games. You looked at it before the game and you thought it was going to be a well-pitched game, and so often you have a great matchup and it deteriorates into a slugfest, but not tonight. So Penny and Peavy 1-1 in the 6th, thanks to Nomar's home run. The back-to-back doubles by Cameron and Bard accounted for the Padre run. Adrian Gonzalez bunts in the air, foul out of play. 0-1. Coming into this inning, Penny had made 68 pitches, so he's coming up with his 70. 0-1. 1-1 the count. Adrian hitting .276, 14 home runs, 51 runs batted in, 0 for 2 tonight, 0 for 7 in the series. Ball 2. Beautiful evening and a beautiful ball game. 1 run, 5 hits for the Padres, 1 run, 2 hits for the Dodgers. Two and 2. Gonzalez, pretty consistent hitter, hitting just under .270 against left-handers, hitting .287 right. With his 14 home runs, he has 7 against the lefties, 7 against the righties. 2 and 2. Poked foul. Adrian 2 for 4 coming into this game against Brad Penny. 25 years old, came from Texas to San Diego, and for a boy born and raised in the area, great treat to come home. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Ball 3. We mentioned at the start of the game Hong-Chi Kuo, who pitched ineffectively last night, has been sent back to Las Vegas. DJ Holton, who had been with the Dodgers, a right-hander and a local boy, is coming up to replace him. 3-2. High fly ball to left down the line. Gonzo a long way to come, and it's going to be in the seats. Last time up, it was Gonzalez to Gonzalez as Adrian hit the ball to Luis. Adrian thinking perhaps he had a shot that it might drop in the foul area inside the line. Well, he was halfway down to first. You know, we were talking about the minimum number of pitches seen by Dodger hitters. The same thing goes with the Padres. And there's ball 4, because Adrian Gonzalez is the first Padre to see more than 7 pitches in a plate appearance, and it took 8 to walk him.
For the Padres, number 25, Mike Cameron.
So with Gonzalez at first, Mike Cameron, who is 2 for 2, coming up. Cameron came in hitting .294. He's now hitting .333 against Penny. 0-1 to Mike. Overall average .269, 10 home runs, 38 runs batted in. Off the plate. 1 ball and 1 strike. The boy from LaGrange, Georgia, Mike Cameron. 34 years old. White Sox originally drafted him. Ball 2 at the hands, 2-1. Had some pretty good years. He has a lot of power. He hit 30 home runs for the Mets 3 years ago. Hit 25 twice for the Mariners. Fouled away down the line, out of play. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Mike, as we mentioned, and you saw if you were watching last night, along with Kevin Kuzminov, they each shaved their heads. And Mike said he hasn't had hair since 1998 when he was with the White Sox. There's proof positive. There's Kevin. And down goes Cameron as Penny puts him away for his 4th strikeout. Pitches up and gets by him. And now Josh Bard. When you look at the Padres, and certainly, for instance, Adrian Gonzalez with 51 runs batted in, you might find it a little surprising that Josh Bard, with 23 RBIs, hitting over 400 with runners in scoring position. Strike. Just big enough. He's 6'3", 215, switch hitter. Signed by the Rockies, came up with the Indians. 0-1. Off the plate. We were talking earlier about his major league debut when he hit a home run against Cleveland. It was a walk-off home run. That was just the 2nd time in history a player had a walk-off home run in his major league debut back in 2002. Strike. Dodgers 1, Padres 1, top of the 6th. Two and two. Khalil Green following Josh Bard to the plate. Green fly deep to center, robbed by Juan Pierre and struck out. 2 and 2. Got him. 5 strikeouts for Penny, and for the second time tonight he has back-to-back strikeouts. He got Green and Kuzman off when he was really pumped in the 4th inning, and now back-to-back Cameron and Bard here in the 6th. So Khalil Green 0 for 2 coming up. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 6th inning, Brad Penny will lead it off. Then Rafael Furcal and Juan Pierre. Strike. 0 and 1. No balls, 1 strike. Check swing, 1 and 1. You know, in further research, talking about Nomar's home run, the fact that it broke Peavy's string of 84 1/3 innings without giving up a home run. That also meant there were 341 plate appearances in between the home runs. Garcia Perez tonight and Chris Young in Arizona in April. So that'll do it. No runs, no hits, a man left. We have 5.5 innings in, and we have a 1-1 tie. Dodger Baseball on FSN Prime Ticket is brought to you by Carl's Jr. Come try the new Buffalo Chicken Sandwich at Carl's Jr. Spice up your day. And by Southwest Airlines. With more flights to more places than ever before, Southwest is taking low fares farther. Quite a duel, as expected, between Brad Penny and Jake Peavy in a 1-1 tie as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. And Brad Penny, who struck out in the 3rd inning, will lead it off. Peavy is 0 for 2 against Brad. Brad 0 for 1 against Jake. Big swing. 0 and 1 to count. Penny against Peavy can be a threat. And it's an interesting thing about Brad. He brought a .241 batting average into the game and a .204 earned run average. Though it's rare indeed when you talk about a pitcher whose batting average is higher than his earned run average. The last pitcher to do that is here tonight. His name is Fernando Valenzuela. Fernando in 1981 batted .250, and his earned run average was 2.4. There he is. Que pasa, amigo? 1 and 2. Big slider swung on, and that'll take care of Penny. As far as the scoring is concerned tonight, in the 2nd inning, Mike Cameron opened up and hooked a double into left field, and then Josh Bard drilled one to right. It landed and bounced up into the lower deck to score Cameron. And then Nomar, after 84 1/3 homerless innings for Jake Peavy, breaks the spell, hits a home run to tie it up. So individual performances tonight for sure, and we're 1-1 in the 6th. With Rafael Furcal. Ball 1. Rafael 0 for 2, popped to short, popped to 3rd. Came into the game hitting .346 against Peavy. Might surprise you, including 3 home runs. 1 and 1 to count. That's in there. 1 and 2. Two balls and 2 strikes to Rafael. Juan Pierre on deck. Peavy with 3 strikeouts. Penny has 4. Ground ball to Khalil. 2 down. Juan Pierre saved a run, and of course that can be huge on a game like this. A diving catch in the 2nd inning with Josh Bard at 3rd, and Green robbed of the hit and a run batted in. Big play. So here we are now, locked in 1-1. Pierre very busy with the glove, 0 for 2 with the bat, hitting .275. Bunts. Bard out to get it, fires and slips and throws too late. Bard fell down while trying to make the throw, and as he slipped, he couldn't get much on the throw. So Juan Pierre, a bunt single, and Russell Martin coming up. So here comes Josh, tries to turn to throw, and his feet went out from under him and he bounced it. So now let's see what Pierre does as far as trying to drive Peavy off his game. Pierre did an incredible job against Chris Young last night. 29 stolen bases, and Russell Martin waiting. Breaking ball, strike, 0-1. Interesting that he threw the slider. If you're Martin, you're saying to yourself, he's probably going to throw fastball. He's worrying about Pierre, and he wants the catcher to get it, but Peavy came slider. Close play at first. One run, 5 hits for the Padres. 1 run, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Dodgers started the night because of the loss last night, trailing San Diego by 1. Pierre goes. Pitch is a strike. The throw is high, and he's in there. 30 stolen bases for Juan Pierre. Throw is up there, and by the time Marcus Giles can bring it down, Pierre is on the bag. .30 stolen bases. And of course last night, remember, he had 3, so he's had 4 stolen bases in the 2 games, plus causing a balk. Now Martin trying to pick him up. Fastball away, 1-2. So Jake Peavy locked into a tie with Penny, and the Dodgers now with a tiebreaker. Pierre ready to go with 2 out. Slider. Two and two. Got him. Big pitch in a slider, and instead of going down and away, he had that slider on the inside part, so the Dodgers leave Pierre, and at the end of 6, a 1-1 tie. Brad Penny tonight, even 1-1 in the ball game, started his strikeouts with Adrian Gonzalez in the 1st inning. Took care of Khalil Green and Kevin Kuzminoff in the 4th, and then Cameron and Bard in the 6th. And wound up after the strikeouts with Kuzminoff in the 4th inning, really showing some rare emotion. Meanwhile, Jake Peavy pretty much poker faced, and they're 1-1 as we go to the 7th. For Penny, he has been getting the first pitch strike 75% of the time. He's now made 89 pitches. And we'll see how he goes in the 7th. Little ground ball to Garcia Parra. So Kuzminov, first ball swinging, grounds out. And the batter will be Jose Cruz.
For the Padres, number 9.
So Nomar's
Jose
home run,
Cruz Jr.
tying up the doubles by Cameron and Bard. Jose Cruz grounded to second, flied to center, 0 for 2. Jose having a better year for the Padres than he did for the Dodgers. Foul back. Cruz, one thing last year, was very handy. He played all 3 outfield positions. With the Dodgers last year, he hit .233 and in 86 games had 5 home runs, 17 RBIs. This year he already has the 5 home runs and 19 RBIs, and he's done that in 67 games. Of course, he has surprising power, or maybe had is the word. He hit 31 for the Jays 7 years ago, 34 for the Jays 6 years ago. Jose, an even 6-footer, about 210. 33, from Puerto Rico, originally a first-round pick by the Mariners. Two and two. Some athletes in the Cruz family, an older brother, Javier, who hurt himself in the minor leagues and had to give up the game. Ball 3. He has a sister who's a fine volleyball and basketball player, and a younger brother, they say, a superb high school baseball player. 3 and 2 to Jose Cruz. Of course, he was a rugrat with his father, growing up in Houston with people like Phil Garner, Nolan Ryan. Down he goes. That would be the 6th strikeout for Brad Penny. 2 down, and Jake Peavy coming up. You know, Tuesday the Dodgers passed the 175 million mark in all-time attendance. We're going to celebrate that and say thanks by giving fans who attend that night a free ticket to the Phillies series. That would be July 16th, 17th, or 18th. So come celebrate Tuesday the attendance mark of 175 million fans. Peavy, a foul ball. He has 2 fly balls to center. Jake 0 for 2, hitting .206. You know how good these two pitchers are? If you combine them, now here you have the count, no balls, 1 strike. That's really been part of the story. If you combine them, they've gone 0-1 to about 78% of the hitters. And that's the first commandment. Get the first pitch for a strike and get the leadoff man. Penny has not gotten the leadoff man quite that often. Ground foul. Cameron led off the second with a double and scored. Cameron led off the 4th inning with a double, didn't score. Gonzalez led off the 6th inning with a walk. Oh yes, son, in mom's arms, got a ball. Dad's got a glove. Who could ask for anything more? 1 ball and 2 strikes in this 1-1 tie. Bounce that thing. 2 and 2. So that's that 57-foot curveball. And there's the pitch count, exactly 100. Two and 2. And down goes Peavy. So that's 7 strikeouts for Brad Penny. And that would be the 3rd time so far this year he's had 7 strikeouts in a game. It's still 1-1. Now there's a real doubleheader, huh? 2 dads, 2 sons. watching a 1-1 game and singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." And the girls are here. Don't forget, tomorrow afternoon, the concluding game of the series, Justin Germano 5-1 and Chad Billingsley 4-0. Hello, little guy. And hugs for Dad. Who could ask for more than that? Well, for the Dodgers, they could ask for a couple of runs. It will be Jeff Kent, followed by Luis Gonzalez, and then Nomar. Brad Penny has now made 101 pitches. Strike. Season high for Penny, 110, and that's when he struck out the 14 Marlins in Florida. He went 7 innings in that game. 0-2 the count. Now to look at the other side of the coin, Jake Peavy. His pitch count. Last time the Dodgers saw him, he made 112 pitches. He's coming off a 111 pitch game against the Red Sox. One and two to Kent. Struck out, fly to center. Check swing, did he? Yes, he did. So Kent strikes out to begin the 7th inning. 5 strikeouts now for Jake Peavy.
Left fielder, number 26, Luis Gonzalez.
And Luis Gonzalez coming up. Gonzo flied to left, flied to center. So Luis is 0 for 2. Like Adrian Gonzalez, he's 0 for 7. Paid attendance tonight. Big crowd, 53,769. And this ball game, well worth drawing 53,769. 2 young pitchers at the top of their game. Peavy and Penny, and a 1-1 tie. Fouled away. 1-1. Down in the Dodger bullpen, Jonathan Broxton and the left-hander Joe Beimel. Beimel pitched 1 inning last night. That's a strike. 1-2. Peavy has not worked more than 7 innings in a game. He's done that a bunch of times. Brad Penny has had 1 8-inning game, and that was the last game he pitched over in Arizona. One ball and 2 strikes. Off the plate. So Lewis and Adrian share more than the last name. They are each 0 for 7 in the series. Rolled up the middle, base hit. It was a changeup, and Gonzalez was able to wait and then just put the bat on the ball. Perhaps grammatically incorrect, but in baseball they always talk about waiting on the pitch, and that's what Gonzo did. So now the Gonzaleses can talk a lot, and here comes Nomar, who hit that high drive into right center that just cleared the wall, as Mike Cameron hoped it was going to kick back to him. Nomar had a 10-pitch at bat when he hit that home run. Very much of a first ball fastball hitter, and he didn't get around on that 94-mile-an-hour Swifty. 0-1. 1 away in the 7th. 1-1 tie. Gonzalez over at first is 4 for 4 in stolen bases. High fly ball back at first, down the line, a trio of Padres, but it's going to be in the stands. 0-2. So Marcus Giles slanting over, brother Brian charging in from right, and Adrian Gonzalez going down the line. 0-2 the count to Nomar. Remember last night we were talking about Chris Young, that the league just runs him wild. The league is 25 out of 25 in stolen bases when Chris Young is pitching. That's popped up. It'll be Gonzalez in foul ground, now in fair. So Nomar pops up, and the batter will be James Loney. Well, as far as Peavy and Penny are concerned, neither one is very good at holding runners on. The league has stolen 9 out of 11 against Peavy. The league has stolen 8 out of 11 against Penny. Remember, the Dodgers threw out Josh Bard on a busted play in the 4th inning, and Pierre was successful in stealing second in the 6th. So James Loney, fly to center, hit back to the box, hitting .458. Remember those astounding numbers before he made his first out. If not, against left-handers, .583, at night .586, on the road .556, with runners in scoring position .583. Well, naturally they're not going to stay there, but it just gives you an indication of what kind of a start he's had. It's been phenomenal. Ball 2. On deck, Andre Ethier. James out of Houston, Texas. That's a strike. 2-1. So Jake Peavy, rolling along, has allowed 1 run and 4 hits. He has not walked a batter, and he has struck out 5. There goes Gonzalez. The pitch off the plate, double clutched by Bard, and so Gonzo steals it. So the Dodgers are successful in stolen bases twice tonight, after stealing 5 last night, and Bard never hit a grip on the ball and couldn't throw it. So now Josh will go out and talk to Peavy. Gonzo is 5 for 5 in stolen bases, and Loney trying to pick him up. Darren Balsley, the pitching coach, checking the book. No activity in the Padre bullpen. 3-1 to Loney, who has walked twice this year while striking out 4 times. And a strike. So Gonzo trying to take a good lead. He has his back to the man who could hurt him. That's Khalil Green. Marcus Giles is out on the grass at second base. And ball 4. So Peavy walks his first man. Dodgers with 2 on and 2 out. And the batter will be Andre Ethier, who fouled out to left and grounded out. Andre Ethier, 6 home runs, 30 runs batted in. Olmedo Signs comes out on deck to bat for Penny. Fastball strike, 0-1. Andre 0 for 2 tonight. Appeared as a pinch hitter last night, grounded to third. 0-1. Oh, and 2. Bottom of the 7th inning for Jake Peavy, ready to make his 100th pitch. And as we mentioned, the most he's made in any game 112 against the Dodgers. But then if you go way back in April, he had a game with 117 and a game with 116 pitches. 0-2. Big pitch, big moment. 1-2. Not much of a breaking ball, and he wants a new ball. Pretty hard to describe what that pitch was. Maybe he was thinking to throw slider. 0-2, but nothing happened. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 26-year-old Jake Peavy out of Sims, Alabama. See the tape on the fingers of Bard? That's what we were talking about, Peavy's eyesight. 2-2. I remember years ago, the Dodgers had Johnny Roseboro, a black catcher, and he always had to tape his fingers so that the pitcher could look in and see the sign. 2 balls, 2 strikes. 2 out, 2 on. So the deuces are wild. It's poked wide at third. Off the glove of Kuzminoff, and the bases are loaded. And Darren Balsley going out to the mound as Olmedo's signs will be coming up. A single off the glove of Kevin Kuzminoff, but if Kevin doesn't keep it on the infield, that's through, and with 2 out, Gonzo would have scored. So signs coming up. Olmedo, like so many ball players, a great difference between what he does at home and what he does on the road. On the road, Olmedo Signs is hitting 114. At home here at Dodger Stadium, he is hitting 357. Huge difference. So 1-1 in the 7th, bases loaded, 2 out. Slider down, ball 1. Anxious moment for Bud Black on his 50th birthday. Gonzalez, Loney, and Efe are out there. Slider hit just foul. Just foul. 1 ball and 1 strike. The big stick indeed. Dodgers are hoping it's big enough right now. Bases loaded, 2 out, 1-1 in the 7th. Two down, 1 ball, 1 strike. Big crowd up and at him now. Just missed with the fastball. 2-1. See Peavy talking to himself. We mentioned that earlier. Tough spots. Two and 1. Fastball down. 2-2. Now Peavy is challenging Sign's strength. He is also challenging him in his most arduous inning. This next pitch to Olmedo will be his 29th. Deuce is wild with the bases loaded. Fastball. So he went after him with his best pitch, and Signs comes up empty on a pitch he usually handles. So the Dodgers get 2 hits and a walk and a stolen base and fail to score. And at the end of 7, 1-1. Dodger Baseball on FSN Prime Ticket is brought to you by Jack in the Box, where we don't make it till you order it. By Rico, move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. And by Southern California Ford, not just miles per gallon, but more fun per gallon. 1-1 tie in the 8th inning, and compare the two pitchers. They each allowed 5 hits. They each allowed 1 run. 1 walk to 2, 7 strikeouts to 5. Peavy 107 pitches, Penny 101, and Brian Giles hits a fly ball down the left field line. Gonzo to the stands, no play. Joe Beimel is now on the mound, and Joe pitched last night. He worked the 8th inning last night, and among other things, he struck out Russell Branyan and Brian Giles, and then Sal pitched the 9th. So 1-1 in the 8th. The rare time that a much publicized head-to-head match comes off exactly the way you figured it would. A drive into right center, and there's nobody there. So Brian Giles on his way to second. Ethier gets it back in. It's a leadoff double. So Brian Giles, a double into right center. For the Padres, they have 6 hits, 4 of them doubles.
For the Padres,
And there was no doubt about that one.
Giles.
The big gap in right center. So now Marcus Giles, Adrian Gonzalez, and Mike Cameron trying to pick him up and break the tie. Would Marcus Giles bunt? Well, first of all, he does have 3 sacrifices this year. Certainly didn't tip it off. Loney is in on the grass. Garcia Parra even with the bag at third, and Bud Black visibly engaged in the dugout. The bunt fouled at the plate. 0-1. Marcus looked like he was more intent on getting to first base than he was to get the bunt down. So old friend Glenn Hoffman maybe hanging out a sign. Marcus batting .253. No balls, 1 strike. Full swing fly ball. No play for Brian. He has to hold at second as Ethier gets it in. So a frustrating at bat from Marcus Giles as he fails to advance his brother. And with 1 out, Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Adrian 0 for 2 with a walk, so he is 0 for 7 in the series. The big thing for Gonzalez is the fact he has gone 9 games without an RBI. So you know how hungry he is right now. Oh, and 1. Joe Beimel trying to hold on to this 1-1 tie. And in facing a good hitter in Adrian Gonzalez, Adrian is 0 for 6 against him. Oh, and 1. And Adrian is more than no slouch with runners in scoring position and less than 2 out. You know what he's hitting in this spot? There's 1 out now. .419. One and 2. Adrian struck out in the first inning, struck out twice last night. So Brian Giles waiting with one out. 1-1 in the eighth. Final score, the Giants beat the Diamondbacks 4-1. Remember, Arizona was a half a game back at San Diego and a half a game in front of the Dodgers, so they lose 4-1. Checked on the curve, strike three, says Tim Welke, and Adrian can't believe it. So Adrian Gonzalez unable to hold up on the curveball. He thought he did. And he is called by Welke. Now Grady Little gone out to the mound with Mike Cameron coming up. He's got Big John Broxton in the pen. Little tougher for Broxton coming in now. Normally John would start the inning. But with the left-hand hitter Brian Giles leading off, they opted to go with Beimel. And now it's a rare instance where John comes in with a man on base at second. And we'll be back.
Your attention, please. Now coming into pitch for the Dodgers, number 51, Jonathan.
The eighth inning, a 1-1 tie. Brian Giles at second, and Jonathan Broxton getting ready to pitch to Mike Cameron. Interesting note that gets your attention right now. Jonathan Broxton has worked 72 innings without allowing a home run. The last home run he gave up was in July of last year. And who hit it? Mike Cameron. Cameron is hitting only .200 against Broxton. 2 for 10, but one of them a home run, and he has 4 RBIs trying to pick up Giles. Fastball fouled away, and for Big John, he comes in and immediately first pitch is 97 on the gun. Hello. Big quiet John. Cameron hitting .268. 1-1. According to the gun, he moved that up to 99. And it's a 1-1. How in the world does a guy hit a 99-mile-an-hour pitch? Ball 2. That was 97. Cameron 2 doubles and struck out going up against Brad Penny. Padres 1 run 6 hits. Dodgers 1 run 5 hits. The starting pitchers just about identical. 2-1 to Cameron. Josh Bard, switch hitter, on deck. Check swing, and it's going to cost him a strike. 2-2 to Cameron. So Brian Giles led off with a double. Marcus failed to bunt, flied to right. Adrian struck out, and now 2-2 to Cameron. Ball 3. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 8th inning, they'll have Furcal, Pierre, and Martin. So Broxton and Cameron run it all the way, 3-2. Broxton's numbers: 47 strikeouts, 17 walks. Not quite 3-1. Got him. So Big John comes in and strikes out Cameron, and the Padres waste a leadoff double by Brian Giles. And we're heading to the bottom of the 8th inning in a 1-1 tie. Jonathan Broxton strikes out Mike Cameron on a 3-2 pitch, and we go to the bottom of the 8th inning. Let's take a look at that at bat. 98-mile-an-hour fastball. Another one at 99. Another one at 98. Finally, a breaking ball at 87. Back with a fastball at 99, and finally a breaking ball at 88 to get him. For Jonathan Broxton, that was a major at-bat, not only against a veteran hitter in a clutch spot, but it is a rare time that Broxton comes in with an inning already underway. Normally, he comes in to start an inning. That was very tough, especially with a tie-breaking run at second base. Heath Bell, young fella out of Oceanside who lives in Tustin, who was originally drafted by the Mets, and Heath Bell will pick it up now in the bottom of the 8th inning against Furcal, Pierre, and Martin. Ball 1, 1-0. Raphael popped up twice, grounded out, 0 for 3. 1-1, bottom of the 8th. Breaking ball strike, 1-1. The pattern for Bud Black is to have Heath Bell along with Clay Meredith. Then he has Scott Linebrink. And then, of course, Trevor Hartman. Ball 2. He has the left-hander whom we saw briefly last night, Royce Ring. Meanwhile, the Dodgers with Penny, Beimel, Broxton, and Saito getting ready in the pen. 2-1 to Raphael. And ball 3. You know, you talk about players getting a bonus. This guy got a $2 million bonus. This guy blah, blah, blah. When Heath Bell signed with the Mets as a free agent, his bonus was $500. And ball 4 to Raphael. So the starting pitchers certainly pitched well enough not to lose, and that's what's happened. Penny went 7, allowed 1. Peavy went 7, allowed 1. Peavy had to fight his way out of a big jam and strike out Signs with the bases loaded. For the Dodgers, interestingly enough, the walk to Furcal, that's the first Dodger leadoff man to get on base. Raphael, with the sore left ankle, hasn't been stealing many, but he has stolen 8 out of 11. He stole second base in the 3rd inning last night. So Furcal at first and Pierre at the plate. The bunt, foul back, 0-1. Heath Bell, a big man. He is 6'3", 230 pounds. A couple of years ago, he went on a heavy diet and lost 30 pounds. 0-1. The bunt is down. Out to get it is barred. The out at first. So Juan Pierre moves Furcal along to second with 1 out, and Martin and Kent coming up.
For the Dodgers, number 55, Russell Martin.
Russell Martin is 0 for 3 tonight, 2 ground balls, and he struck out with Pierre at second in the 6th inning. Russell last night had a walk and a double and a stolen base. hitting .295, 9 home runs, 52 runs batted in. And by coming up with that base hit last night, a double to right field, he has hit safely in 9 straight. Crowd now starting to get up on their feet. One of those games. 1 out. Tiebreaker at second. Jeff Kent on deck. Padres scored back in the 2nd inning. Doubles by Cameron and Bard. The Dodgers broke through in the 5th. Home run by Garciaparra. And that's it. And another look. One of the things Heath Bell did about 1.5 years ago to lose some weight, he got into rollerblading. That's a strike. And I mean, when he was rollerblading, he was then a member of the New York Mets, and he would rollerblade 8 miles to the complex every day because he was accustomed to the blades growing up around Newport Beach. 0-1. Little chopper. Nice hop. Adrian Gonzalez to the bag. Taking third is Furcal. And the batter is Jeff Kent. Heath Bell has done a very good job. He has an earned run average coming into this game of 1.5. So never mind the rollerblading. And his strikeout to walk ratio, excellent. 49 strikeouts, 14 walks. So now Jeff Kent will face him with a tiebreaker 90 feet away. And it's a good out air check. Bell, he has 3 wild pitches. Fouled away. Jeff Kent knows the scouting report. Fastball, changeup, and a splitter. So Furcal ready to come. Anything that gets away. 0-1. Fastball. Boy, we're seeing it tonight. Jeff hitting .266, 10 home runs, 39 runs batted in. Padres 1 run, 6 hits. Dodgers 1 run, 5 hits. Down he goes. Looked like a slider down and away, but maybe just a fastball with a little late jump to it. So Heath Bell stops the Dodgers, leaves a runner at third, and at the end of 8, 1-1. We have reached the 9th inning. It's been a whale of a game. Great pitching, which was expected. So many times you're disappointed. And with Penny and Peavy holding up their ends, then Beimel, Broxton, and Bell have done their share. Heath Bell coming in to walk 1, strike out 1, and so Jonathan Broxton, who made 6 pitches to strike out Mike Cameron, with Brian Giles at second, now on his own in the 9th inning. Had the Dodgers scored in the 8th, Takashi Saito would have been brought in to pitch the 9th. Josh Bard double to right to score Cameron for the Padres' only run. Also single to left and struck out. Ball 1. When Bard got a base hit in the 4th inning, fly ball single to left, they stopped Cameron at third. Made sense. That put them first and third, nobody out. But Green and Kuzmanov struck out. And there had to be a busted play when Bard was thrown out trying to steal on a pitch to Green. So that was a big inning, and the Padres turned away empty-handed. Since then, San Diego has had one man in scoring position, and that was Brian Giles, who doubled starting the 8th inning. Dodgers, meanwhile, have left 5 men in the last 3 innings. Bases loaded in the 7th. In the 6th, they left Pierre at 2nd, and they left Furcal at 3rd in the 8th. 2-0. Right. Bard hitting .262, 3 home runs, 23 runs batted in. Josh and Michael Barrett, the catchers now for the Padres. 2-1. Ball 3. So Broxton went 3-2 to Cameron and got him. Now comes back 3-1 to Bard. And a strike. When Bard made the Red Sox ball club last year, he did the opposite of what most players do. He switched from a lower number to a higher number. He went from 28 to 77. Now he's back to 28 and draws the walk. So with a runner at first, nobody out. Khalil Green. Broxton and Green. Khalil 0 for 2. Aram Boca Chica will now run for Bard. Aram formerly with the Dodgers. So Boca Chica takes over. Boca Chica has stolen 3 out of 4. So let's see what they do with Green with a runner at first, nobody out. Green, by the way, has not sacrificed this year. So Boca Chica carrying the tiebreaker over there. There he goes. Pitch out. Martin guns it. They got him. So a great call. The Dodgers put on the pitch out, and they burn Bud Black. Grady Little must have had that feeling. There's the pitch out, and Martin throws a laser down to Jeff Kent for the tag, and Boca Chica is gone. So 1 out in the 9th, then a 1-1 tie. Big play, great throw. 1-0 the count to Khalil Green. Strike. So Boca Chica barely got into the game before he's back in the dugout behind Greg Maddux. One and 2. Big John, as usual, throwing hard, although he finally put Cameron away with a breaking ball. 1-2 to Green. Kuzmanov on deck. Fouled away. Interesting that they called the pitch out on the first pitch to Green, only because it was obvious Broxton is fighting his control. Remember, he went 3-2 with Cameron, and then he walked Bard, and yet they called the pitch out right away. Boom, it paid off. 1-2. Two and 2. Padres scored in the 2nd. Dodgers scored in the 5th. And here we are in the 9th. 2-2. Off speed, fly ball to left field. That was dropped into the 80s. And just a lazy fly ball. 2 down. So, boy, when you can go from 99 to 85 and still throw strikes, you really mess up the hitter. So Green just a lazy fly ball, and here now is Kevin Kuzminov. He's gone from 99. That's the hardest pitch he's made tonight. So from 99 to 85. Kuzminov hitting .220. Grounded out twice, struck out 0 for 3, but homered last night. 3-run job. Strike. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the ninth, they will have Luis Gonzalez 1 for 3, Nomar 2 for 3, Loney 0 for 2. Fastball, fly ball to right, Ethier. All right. This big crowd hanging tough. It's been a great game up to here, and now it'll be Luis Gonzalez, Nomar Garciaparra, James Loney in a 1-1 tie. Well, it certainly doesn't take long to talk about the scoring highlights. In the second inning, Cameron doubled to left and Barr doubled to right to score him, and that gave the Padres a 1-0 lead. But in the fifth inning, Nomar Garciaparra hit his first home run after 231 at-bats to tie it up. And now we're in the bottom of the ninth inning. A magnificent performance by two brilliant young pitchers, Jake Peavy and Brad Penny. It was push against shove, and neither man would give ground. They were as great as you would expect them to be at their finest. So now, bottom of the ninth inning, Heath Bell facing Gonzo, Garciaparra, and Loney. Gonzo 1 for 3, singled and stole a base. 0-1 to count. Hitting .295. Fastball, 0-2. Michael Barrett is now the new catcher for San Diego after Boca Chica ran for Bard. 0-2. Ground foul. Michael Barrett caught last night's game and had 2 hits. A new Padre coming over from Chicago. He started with Montreal. So Grady with that big pitch out to Aris Boca Chica. Now 1-1 bottom of the ninth. Just held up. Fastball away. 1-2. Chopper to the hole, backhanded by Green on the run. He throws and gets him. Isn't that a wonderful play? Boy, the big leaguers can do it all. How tough is that to be going in one direction and a left-hand hitter to boot? On the run, gets it accurately with enough on a bounce to beat Gonzo. 1 down. Big play by Khalil, 1 away. And the batter now, Nomar. Fastball, ball 1. Heath Bell and Nomar. Nomar's 0 for 3 against him. Coming alive in the series, 5 hits in the 2 games. 5 hits in his last 6 at-bats. Fastball going the other way is Marcus Giles to get him. So 2 down in the ninth inning, and the batter will be James Loney. A couple of things to keep in mind about these two teams. In 1-run decisions, the Padres have won 14, but they have lost 16. Interestingly enough, they've lost more than they've won at home in 1-run games. The Dodgers have done very well, 17-9, and at home they've won 9 out of 12. So here is Loney with 2 down. Ball 1. If we indeed go into extra innings, and they're 1 out away from that, San Diego is 5-6, but they are 4-2 on the road. The Dodgers in extra inning games at home are 5-0. 1-1 to James Loney. Fly to center, hit back to the box, and walk. Ball 2. Andre Ethier hitting back of him. Heath Bell in relief of Jake Peavy, working his 2nd inning. Fouled away upstairs. 2-2. 53,769. Thought they'd come out and see a pitching masterpiece, and that's what they saw. The battle between Penny and Peavy, a draw. Rafael Furcal and Luis Gonzalez. Things kind of quiet in the Padre pen. Ball on the corner. So Loney got kind of a late call. They broke the news to him on a 3 count after the pitch, so Bell does his job. Dodgers go out in order. Saito coming in for the 10th in a 1-1 tie. Say, friends, did you know you can get 4 tickets to a Dodger game, 4 Dodger dogs, and 4 Cokes for $62? Well, you can with the Coca-Cola Family Pack. The next Family Pack game Sunday, July 8th against the Florida Marlins. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com or call 866-DODGERS. Well, Heath Bell turned in a strong 2 innings. Walked 1, struck out 2. Broxton made 20 pitches to get through his work, an inning and a third. And now Takashi Saito. Normally you see him when the Dodgers are out in front, but he's in there now to hold that Tiger. 1-1, and Jose Cruz to start it off. Then we'll have a hitter for Bell. Off speed, ball 1. Russell Branyan is now out on deck. He would bat for Heath Bell, and Scott Linebrink is warming up in the Padre bullpen. Pop foul, out of play. So Branyan waits. Cruz 0 for 3, grounded out, flied out, struck out. Saito with those truly remarkable numbers. 42 strikeouts and 3 walks. And a fly ball down the line. Gonzo coming across the line, reaches in, disappears. Oh, great. The fans fight him for it, but you know what? That's okay. I mean, if you go into the stands, that's another story. It would be nice, you would think, if the fans, who are mostly Dodger fans, would get out of his way, but obviously yeah, you're now going into the fans' territory when you're leaning in, and 1 glove, 2 gloves, they all miss it, and then a scramble. So Luis comes out of there with a glove full of empty. 1-2. 1-1 in the 10th. 2-2. Breaking ball missed. So the slider runs it 3-2. Saito with 22 saves. Going back to last year, he's 46 out of 49. Fastball popped up. Going out is for call. In comes Gonzo. 1 out. So now Russell Branyan will come up and bat for Heath Bell.
Your attention, please.
Branyan finished up batting ninth last night in a double switch. Finished up playing third base. He had one at bat and struck out against Joe Beimel. Now facing Saito. Meanwhile, Heath Bell, who did a solid job staying on the bench to root for Branyan. A shattered bat, and the bat, I think, might have gotten Saito. The out is at first. Saito is still on the ground. And I guess he got away from it, but for a moment there, he went down and stayed down. And the bat goes all the way out towards second base. Whoa. That was kind of scary the way Saito went down, as if the bat hit him and he stayed there while the out was recorded. And the batter now is Brian Giles. Well, it isn't one thing you worry about, meaning the line drive from the ball. You also have to worry about the bat. 2 out. Strike to Giles. Brian has had a walk, a single, and a double. The one time they got him, he hit the ball hard to left center, and it was caught by Juan Pierre. Hitting .284. Breaking ball. 1-1. With Takashi, basically fastballs and sliders. And if you're a hitter, you know he's going to be around the plate just about all the time. Fastball. 1-2. To look ahead, when the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 10th, Andre Ethier, then Saito spot, and for call. On the hands, broken bat, and a flare to Garcia Park. So Saito gets 3 and breaks 2. And at the end of 9 1/2, a 1-1 tie. One, bottom of the 10th inning, and the Padres go to their bullpen after having batted for Heath Bell, and Scott Linebrink coming in. Scotty out of Austin, Texas. He'll be 31 the first week in August. He was originally a number 2 pick by the Giants 10 years ago out of Southwest Texas State. Came up to the big leagues with the Giants in 2000, but immediately went over to the Astros. Had the bulk of his career with Houston, and he's been with San Diego for the last 3 years. Last weekend, when they played the Red Sox, he had an earned run average of 1.9, but he gave up a run in each game he appeared in. Ball 1. For Saito, he is working that 1 inning because Wilson Betemit is on deck. Chin-Wei Sao is in the bullpen. That's a strike. Andre Ethier hitting .278. Tonight, fouled out to left, grounded out, and singled off the glove of Kevin Kuzminov. Of course, that was the inning. If Kuzminov doesn't get his glove on the ball and keep the ball on the infield, Gonzalez would have scored and this game would have been over. So Linebrink now has to hold the Dodgers 1-1. And a breaking ball takes care of Ethier. So 1 away in the 10th inning. And now Wilson Betemit will now hit for Saito.
Your attention, please, for the Dodgers. Batting for Saito.
So in wheeling and dealing right now, in extra innings in a 1-1 tie, you would have to give the advantage to San Diego, because the Dodgers, remember, they've used Beimel, Broxton, Saito. Last night they used Sionez, Hendrickson, and Beimel. And so Chin-Wei Sao tuning up. Down in the San Diego bullpen, they still have, among others, Clay Meredith and the big guy, Trevor Hoffman. 1-0. Fouled away. Betemeat hitting .194, 8 home runs, 20 RBIs. One of the 8 hit right-handed. He did that in Arizona. Big numbers coming off the bench. Linebrink with the opposition hitting .220 against him. 1-2. Boy, that was a home run swing. Come up empty. It was an off-speed pitch, and Wilson way out in front of it. Linebrink has allowed 6 home runs. 1-2. Off the plate. With Linebrink, you get 2 seamers, a slider, and a splitter. 2-2. And down goes Betemeat. So the last 3 Dodger hitters have struck out. 4 of the last 6 have struck out. And the biggest strikeout for the Dodgers tonight came in the 7th inning when Olmedo signs with the bases loaded up against Jake Peavy, and Peavy went strength against strength and signs an excellent fastball hitter, and Peavy blew him away with fastballs. So that was a defining moment, and now here we are in the 10th. Strike. Furcal has popped up twice, grounded out, and walked. The leadoff walk in the 8th inning, the only time tonight the Dodgers have had a leadoff man get on. Fastball lined at Marcus Giles. So we've got 10 in the books. Turn the page. We're heading for inning number 11 in a 1-1 tie. High-spirited crowd on this Saturday night, a 1-1 tie, and we're ready to go to the 11th inning. 53,769, although several have now left, but still a good portion of the crowd hanging tough. For the Dodgers, for the second night in a row, they bring in Chin-Wei Sao, who pitched last night for the first time since the 19th of May. Sao pitched the 9th inning and retired Gonzalez, Cameron, and Barrett last evening. So Chin-Wei, who picked up for fellow Taiwanese pitcher Hung-Chi Kuo, only to find out today Kuo is back in Las Vegas, and DJ Holton, a right-hander who had been with the Dodgers, will be here in uniform, I'm sure, by tomorrow. And talking about being in uniform tomorrow, I would assume former A's, former Dodger outfielder Milton Bradley will be in uniform joining the Padres tomorrow. In the 11th inning, it will be Marcus Giles, Adrian Gonzalez, and Mike Cameron. So Sao has drawn a tough hand here in the 11th. It's been so even that here in the 11th inning, the numbers 2, 3, and 4 hitters come up for the Padres, and the bottom half, the numbers 2, 3, and 4 will come up for the Dodgers. Marcus Giles is 0 for 4. Ball 1. Sal has that little hesitation, somewhat the way Takashi Saito has, and like his countryman Hung-Chi Kuo, pitches from the stretch. 1 ball, no strikes. Sal, 26 years old. Fastball behind 2-0. He's 6'2" and about 190. Originally signed by the Rockies. Last year injured. Dodgers picked him up. And if his arm is sound, good pitcher. And behind 3-0 to Marcus Giles. Tough way to begin. So Grady has used Beimel, Broxton, Saito, and now Sal. The big thing, Mark Hendrickson had to work 3 innings last night. Beimel, Sionis, and Sal also backed up Quo. 3-0. In there. Padres, the one team in the Western Division over the last 2 years to give the Dodgers a bad time. Fly ball to right center. Pierre's there. So 1 away. Not a bad idea to look at the standings for the moment. Dodgers started the night a game back. The Diamondbacks started a half a game back. They lost, so they're 1 back. And of course the Dodgers trying to catch the Padres with a victory tonight. Now Adrian Gonzalez, 0 for 3 with a walk, struck out twice. 0 for 8 in the series. Ball 1. Hitting .275, 14 home runs, 51 runs batted in. On deck, Mike Cameron. Ball 2. So he fell behind 3-0 to Giles and got him. Falls right behind 2-0 to Gonzalez. Sal pitched for the Chinese Taipei team in the 2000 Olympics in Seoul. Fouled away. When he signed with the Rockies about 5 years ago, he was a very skinny 18 years old, but he had Tommy John surgery. You know, Hung-Chi Kuo had Tommy John surgery twice. And in trying to build the arm back, he built up his body to get up to 190 pounds. Well, he fell behind to Giles. Now he falls behind to Gonzalez. 3-1. Three and 2. That staggered Russell Martin behind the plate. It's amazing. You can have shin guards on. You can have a chest protector. Every now and then a foul ball will find you. That got Martin just above the right shin guard on the thigh. And then off the toe. 3-2. Fastball, foul ball, into the seats. Final game of the series tomorrow, and that will be Chad Billingsley with a record of 4-0, Justin Germano with a record of 5-1. After the Padres, a 4-game series with the Atlanta Braves, and next weekend with the Florida Marlins. 3-2. Fastball. And he hits 93. Still 3-2. Talk about Tommy John and all the various pitchers who have undergone the famous Tommy John surgery. Tommy is now 64 years old. The years, they go flying by. And walked him. So Sal goes 3-2 and got Giles, goes 3-2 and walks Gonzalez, and the batter is Mike Cameron. Adrian Gonzalez has not been involved in a stolen base this year. Nevertheless, Loney is right at the bag. Cameron, 2 doubles and 2 strikeouts. 1 out in the 11th, a 1-1 tie. Red hot since May. When we saw him in April, didn't even look like Cameron the way he was swinging the bat, but he's very much on the beam now. Look at those numbers. 192, 288, and blistering the ball in June. Cameron out of LaGrange, Georgia. They also have a Kevin Cameron, a pitcher in the organization. Mike's 34. Came up with the White Sox. One and 0 to Mike Cameron. And a strike. Backing up Sal in the bullpen is Rudy Cianez. Last night, the Padres used their pen, Meredith, Ring, Linebrink, and Hoffman. Tonight, they've used Bell and Linebrink. 1-1. And Clay Meredith is now up. 2-1 the count to Mike Cameron. So Sal struggling with his control. You would expect that for a fella who had not pitched since the 19th of May. Coming in, he did have a little bit better than a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. 2-1 to Cameron. Good fastball. 2-2. He hits 92. Remember that duel that Cameron had with Jonathan Broxton in the 8th inning with a runner at second and 2 out, and that was some experience, where Broxton hit as high as 99 and struck him out with a breaking ball at 85 to 88. And that's lifted to right center, playable. Pierre says he'll take care of it. Boy, he's been busy out there tonight. So 2 down, and he has the 2 putouts here in the 11th.
Catcher number 4, Michael Barrett.
Pierre has had 8 putouts in center field. Ocho. Now Michael Barrett coming in at the end after they took Josh Bard out for a runner. Barrett's hitting .256 and drives one to left. Gonzo is there. All right, so Sal gets his job and gets it done. The Padres leave Gonzalez, and here come the Dodgers in the bottom of the 11th, 1-1. It was a magnificent pitching duel. Jake Peavy setting the tone as he had himself a total of 6 strikeouts. And then it was Brad Penny who was matching him pitch for pitch, strikeout for strikeout. Brad wound up with 7. And the Dodgers with Penny and the Padres with Peavy, it was a draw. But to see the emotion of Penny, you understood there was a lot riding on the game. So that's the way it added up. Each side giving up 5 hits, each pitcher giving up 1 earned run. Peavy walked 1, Penny 2, Peavy struck out 6, Penny 7. Peavy made 107 pitches, Penny made 101. Both men are to be congratulated for a great performance. Neither man deserved to lose, and that's the way it went. Now Clay Meredith will make his second appearance. Meredith worked the 7th inning last night and gave up 2 runs. And that's a strike to Juan Pierre. Pierre tonight, 1 hit, a bunt single, Very busy in the outfield with 8 putouts. Hitting .278, 18 runs batted in, and the last man the Padres want to see to get on base. Slow roller, Kuzminov. One away. So Juan Pierre, a tapper to third, and Russell Martin coming up with a 9-game hitting streak. Martin is 0 for 4. Martin has had 2 chances to change the game. In the 6th inning, he came up with 2 out and Pierre at second base and struck out. In the 8th inning, he came up with 1 out and for call at second and grounded out. Whoa. Not just trying to make contact. That was an off-speed pitch, so you saw his complete swing. 0-1. Off the plate, 1 ball, 1 strike. And that's going into right field. Base hit. So the Dodgers get their first base runner since the 8th inning. We're now in the 11th. It comes with 1 out. And the batter will be Jeff Kent. So Martin's base hit extends his hitting streak to 10 straight. That's the first hit for the Dodgers since Ethier's single in the 7th. The Padres, their last hit was Giles' double, Bryant's double, in the 8th. Double R's. Royce Ring is throwing in the Padre bullpen. Left-hander perhaps getting ready for Gonzalez, who's hitting after Kent. We'll see. Kent is 0 for 4 and struck out 3 times. Strike. Jeff hitting .265, 10 home runs, 39 runs batted in. Oh and 1. Martin, of course, one of the rare catchers in this business who is a threat to steal. Martin has 14 stolen bases. Kent not quite ready to get in, something in his eye. Oh and 1. Sliced foul upstairs. 0 and 2. Clay Meredith from Virginia went to Virginia Commonwealth. He's been a fine young pitcher for the Padres. Clay's full name, Elise Claiborne Meredith III, and Clay has spent CLA. One and 2. Meredith, only 24 years old. He used to play the middle infield in college. That's where he got to throw the ball sidearm, and it seemed to pay off when he finally went to the mound. That was a good deal for the Padres. They sent Doug Mirabelli to the Red Sox, and they got Clay Meredith and Josh Bard. There goes the throw and the runner, and Martin has stolen it. 15th stolen base for Russell Martin. And so the stolen base that haunted Bud Black last night when the Dodgers went 5 for 5, now he is faced with a similar situation now. It is the 3rd stolen base tonight for the Dodgers. So they've stolen 8 bases against the Padres in the 2 games. All right, Martin trying to be picked up and get this game over. 2 and 2 to Jeff Kent. And the crowd on its feet as Kent backs out. 1 run, 6 hits for each side. Well, a big chant, let's go Dodgers. Kent has been in a hole. He started out 0-2 in each of his last 3 at-bats. Now it's 2-2, and now it's ball 3. So from 0-2, Jeff has battled it all the way. Luis Gonzalez waiting on deck. And Royce Ring down in the bullpen. 3-2. And Martin to third on ball 4. The throw, they got him. Oh, what a gamble. Oh, what a gamble. Michael Barrett makes a big play as Russell Martin is thrown out trying to steal third. And Barrett made a good play. He certainly didn't get a good pitch to handle and threw him out with plenty to spare. Matt Kemp is now going to run. Here's the hand. Here comes the tag. Wow. Well, now wait a minute, huh? Awful close. Tim Welke was right there to call it. Yeah, says Barrett. We'll be back. In a 1-1 tie, 2 out, bottom of the 11th inning, Matt Kemp is running for Jeff Kent right after Russell Martin was thrown out trying to steal third. So Martin, no doubt upset. He gambled. It was awfully close, as we showed you on TV, whether the tag came before his hand hit the bag. But Tim Welke called him out, so out he is. So Russell rolls the dice and loses, and now the left-hander from La Mesa, Royce Ring. Lives in El Cajon, went to San Diego State. They call him Triple R because his middle name, well, actually Royce is his middle name. His true name is Roger Royce Ring, and they say he has 2 interlocked R's on his back. He'll be 27 in December. Big curveball. He came in the 8th inning last night to face Gonzalez, got him to hit back to the box. Then Garciaparra had a single and Loney had a base hit, and a run came home. Now dropped right back in the fire with 2 out. On deck, Garciaparra. Matt Kemp running for Jeff Kent. Kemp has stolen 3 out of 4. Dodgers had 8 stolen bases until Martin was nailed trying to steal third. Ball 2. Dodgers trail the Padres by 1, and we have a 1-1 tie in the 11th. Gonzo is doing well against left-hand pitching. He's hitting .328, but Ring has been downright dynamite against left-hand hitters. They're just .182 against him. So we'll see who wins this battle. 3-0. A strike. 3-1. No one throwing, so if Gonzalez gets aboard and Kemp goes to second, Nomar Garciaparra will be coming up. Three and 1. And ball 4. So that's a big at bat for Gonzo to get a walk. It moves the potential winning run to scoring position. Darren Balsley is going to go out and talk to Ring, and Nomar will be the hitter. So Ring had been so effective against left-hand batters. Black thought he might get Gonzo and end the inning, but now he's going to have to be effective against a right-hand batter. It's been Peavy, Bell, Linebrink, Meredith, and Ring. The Dodgers with Penny, Beimel, Broxton, Saito, Sal, and Tomko in the pen in case they need him in the 12th. So the game is on the line. 2 on, 2 out. 11th inning, 1-1. A left-hand batter on deck. That would be James Loney. Nomar with a single and a home run. Breaking ball. 0-1. Little curveball. 0-1. So in the inning, Martin singled with 1 out, stole second, and was thrown out stealing third while Kent walked. Kemp running for Kent, and Gonzalez has walked. So 2 on, 2 out. Another curveball, little foul. 0-2. So no doubt Balsley went out to remind Ring, hey, this guy number 1 is a dynamite first ball fastball hitter. So he started him with back-to-back curveballs. 0-2. Right-hand batters are also 2 for 11 against Ring. Ring's earned run average coming in 1.5. Fastball showcase off the corner. 1-2. Ring 8 strikeouts and 4 walks. Nomar hitting .277. Curveball grounded to Kuzminov to the bag, and we're going to go to the 12th. So Nomar hits into the 4th play with Kemp erased, and of course the huge play was Russell Martin thrown out trying to steal third. We're 1-1. We're heading for the 12th inning in a 1-1 tie. The Dodgers shifting their pieces on the board. First of all, Andre Ethier goes from right field to left. Matt Kemp, who got into the game as a runner for Jeff Kent, will go into right field. Dodgers then will move Tony Abreu at second base, and they bring in the pitcher, Brett Tomko. So if you're keeping score, Kemp stays in Kent's spot. He ran for him. Ethier stays where he is. Tomko will go in Gonzalez's spot, batting 5th. That means Abreu would bat 9th, and he would be the 3rd man due up in the bottom of the 12th. So Brett 1-5 with a very high ERA, and coming in now, Tomko pitched 2 1/3 innings in Thursday's game in Arizona, and he gave up 2 runs and 3 hits. Ball 1. Khalil Green 0 for 4. Green robbed of a hit by Pierre that saved a run. Since then struck out, hit into a force play, flied out, a bullet to center for a base hit. So Khalil Green, a line single to center, and now it's the Padres' turn to put on a little pressure. It's been the Dodgers having a golden opportunity in the 7th, in the 8th, and in the 11th. Padres had an opportunity with a leadoff double in the 8th and a leadoff walk in the 9th. So here is Kuzminov, 0 for 4. Kuzminov around to bunt and a strike. He does not have a sacrifice so far this year. Jose Cruz hitting back of him, so we'll see if the bunt's on. Brett Tomko lives in San Diego. 0-1. And the bunt is down. It will be Martin to make the play. Abreu handles the throw. Wasn't too long ago Brett Tomko was playing for the Padres. That would be 2002. So Kuzminov does his job, moves his man along, and a tiebreaker at second with one out. Jose Cruz will be the batter. Scott Linebrink would be due up next, or I should say Royce Ring, not Linebrink or Meredith, Ring. But Jeff Blum is out on deck. 0-1. Jose Cruz grounded out, twice flied out, struck out, 0 for 4. Another off-speed breaking ball, 0-2. It's like Royce Ring coming in and throwing those slow curveballs to Garcia Parra. Now Tomko throwing slow stuff to Cruz with Khalil Green at second. One out in the 12th. 1-1 tie. Justin Hampson and Trevor Hoffman throwing in the Padre pen. Fastball, 1-2. Brett, 6'3", 225, 34 years old. 1-2. Slow curveball flared into left field. A diving try by Ethier, and they're saying no catch, and the run is in. The throw goes into second base. No catch. Tim Wilkie, the third base umpire, was out in left field to call it. It was a great effort by Ethier, but Tomko gives up the run, and the Padres take a 2-1 lead. So Cruz scores Green, then takes second. Great effort, the backhanded effort, but great call by third base umpire Tim Wilkie. So 2-1 San Diego. Cruz at second. And here is Jeff Blum, switch hitter, batting left-handed. A bullet inside first and down the line. Here comes Cruz. So that makes it 3-1 Padres, as the Dodger bullpen sooner or later had to get to the weaker area, and it looks like it's going to cost them. So Tomko gives up 3 hits, 2 runs, and the Padres jubilant, leading 3-1.
Right fielder Brian Giles.
Now the batter is Brian Giles, who has a single and a double tonight. Padres 3 runs, 9 hits. Dodgers 1 run, 6 hits. Ball 1. So he was saying earlier that if it goes extra innings, the edge would have to go to the Padre bullpen, because the Dodgers had used Beimel, Broxton, and then Sato. And they had used Hendrickson and Beimel the night before. And now Trevor Hoffman gets up with at least a 2-run lead. 1-2 to Brian Giles. On the corner, strike 3 called. Giles can't quite believe it, but he's done.
Second baseman.
Plate umpire Jim Reynolds rings him up. So 2 down, and his brother Marcus now. Marcus 0 for 5. When the Dodgers come up in the 12th inning, they'll have Loney, Ethier, and Abreu. The Dodgers were tempting fate anyway, in the sense that 6 of the 12 San Diego leadoff men had reached first base. That is always a dangerous way to play it. But the Dodgers were bobbing and weaving and getting away with it. Only 1 has scored. But tonight, another leadoff man got aboard in the 12th. That was Khalil Green, and they've scored twice now to lead 3-1. 1-1. 1-2 to Marcus, hitting .252. 4 home runs, 30 runs batted in. So Jose Cruz with that double into left field. The great effort by Ethier, just missing. Ground ball to Loney. He'll do it himself, but the damage is done. The Padres get 2. And we're heading for the bottom of the 12th. Trevor Hoffman is heading for the mound, and the Padres lead 3-1. Jose Cruz gets a flare double to left, and it's 3-1 San Diego, bottom of the 12th inning, and Trevor Hoffman coming in to try and lock it up. Trevor Hoffman, who appeared last night, worked the 9th inning, allowed 1 run, a couple of hits, and made 13 pitches, is right back in the fire, having saved 22 out of 24. And as you can see, piling up a lot of saves against the Dodgers. So Trevor with an ERA of 2.1. And as far as the opposition is concerned, they're hitting 176 against him. So the Dodgers will have Loney, Ethier, and Abreu. Padres 3 runs, 9 hits. Dodgers 1 run, 6 hits. And the amazing Hoffman coming in. Trevor Hoffman facing James Loney. Loney tonight flied to center, hit back to the box, walked and struck out. Ball 1. Trevor Hoffman will be 40 the 13th of October. Went to school at the University of Arizona. High fly ball to left field. Cruz is there. So 2 pitches. Loney is retired. 1 away. And the batter will be Andre Ethier. So near and yet so far in his attempt to catch the ball hit by Cruz. Ethier fouled out to left and grounded out, singled off Kuzminov's glove and struck out. Padres trying to beat the Dodgers and make it 7 out of 11. And more than that, since last year, if the Padres win tonight, they will have beaten the Dodgers 20 out of the last 29 meetings. I mean, that's dominating, considering the fact the Dodgers are 51-25 against the rest of the division. But Bud Black looking for a birthday present on his 50th birthday, and he's leading 3-1. The Dodgers, in direct contrast to San Diego, cannot get the leadoff man on base. In 12 innings, they have gotten the leadoff man on once. That was for Call, who walked in the 8th inning, and he got as far as 3rd. So sooner or later, you keep allowing the leadoff man to get on. And but James Loney, a long night, 0 for 4 with a walk. 1 out. Russell Martin, no doubt, can't help but thinking about the busted steal of 3rd. And that's going to be hit to the gap, but here comes Cameron to make the play. So Ethier makes an out to center, and we have 2 down in the 12th inning. And the batter will be Tony Abreu. Tony Abreu just got into the ball game in a double switch, finishing up playing second base and batting 9th. Hitting .284. His 1 home run was a game winner over in Arizona. His first major league home run. He has 9 runs batted in. Don't forget, tomorrow afternoon, Justin Germano and Chad Billingsley. Ball one. Billingsley is 4-0. Germano is 5-1. One ball, no strikes. In there. 3 runs, 9 hits for the Padres. No errors. 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. Oh, that great changeup. And Tony Abreu has just gone to school. 1-2 the count. And fouled away. Trevor Hoffman, when he delivers the changeup, as Andre Ethier thinks about the problems in the world, Trevor really gets his back into the changeup. I think that's part of the effectiveness. Certainly sitting upstairs looking at it, you had to believe it's a fastball the way that back comes in. That's a fly ball to Cruz, and that was a fastball to end the ball game. So the Dodgers and Jake Penny, the Padres and Peavy battled all the way, and eventually in the 12th inning the Padres break through. Hoffman took 11 pitches to shut the door. The player of the game would be Jake Peavy, who went 1 run, 5 hits. Might as well include Brad Penny in that. 1 run and 5 hits. The difference being Peavy wound up pitching for the winning team. So the Padres lead the Dodgers by 2. They have beaten them 7 out of 11, and they have one more game tomorrow in this series, and that's Germano and Billingsley. Then the Braves come in for 4, followed by the Marlins. Once again, the final score: Padres 3, Dodgers 1 in 12 innings. Stay tuned for Dodger Live, and it starts right now. Good night, everybody.